I want to start with your reaction to this breaking news we learned in the last hour. The fragment of an Iranian missile reportedly hitting the residential building of the U.S. consul in Israel. Like our Joe Khalil said, obviously the Iron Dome works, but it has some imperfections like we're seeing now.
Yeah, yes, of course it has imperfections. You know, when Ronald Reagan first decided to try and put up the Strategic Defense Initiative to provide missile defense for the homeland, people said it wouldn't work. When George W. Bush withdrew from the anti-ballistic missile treaty, people said you can't hit a bullet with a bullet, including then Senator Joe Biden. So we've gone from people thinking it couldn't work at all to realizing there are imperfections in it. But the overwhelming success that they've had has certainly prevented Iran from doing anything like the amount of damage they would like to have done. And I think the key point here is the U.S. and Israel are doing far more damage to Iran than everything Iran has done in the last 2 weeks.
You just heard Zach's reporting that President Trump says the terms of a ceasefire with Iran are not good enough yet. What do you make of him saying that he is unwilling to negotiate?
I don't think Iran has put any terms on the table. I think they're all in bunkers somewhere, the people who could do that. I don't know who he's negotiating with, maybe himself. But the reality is that the president's stated goal of regime change hasn't been achieved yet, and there's a lot more to do. There's a lot more to do even to incapacitate Iran's retaliatory strike capabilities, as we see in statements that we may have to go back at targets on Karg Island and many others elsewhere in the country. There's still a lot of work to do.
I want to get your take on where America stands in the war right now, Ambassador. You've called the war, quote, Trump's self-inflicted wound. Tell me what that means.
Well, what I said was, I think I was misquoted in a headline or two, but that his failure to make the case to the American people was a self-inflicted wound. He first announced this attack at 2:30 in the morning on a Saturday, and it's not just a question of one speech. I think there's a compelling case to be made for regime change. It could take months properly to prepare the groundwork with the American people, with Congress, with our allies, with the opposition in Iran. That doesn't mean telling them anything about the operational details or timing of the strike, but it means making the case that America's national security interests are going to require the use of force. He didn't even come close to that. And that is a problem, because the polls, which are the only evidence we have, show support for the war only among a minority of American citizens. And that's bad news when you're just at the beginning of the war. So I think Trump has a lot of work to do there as well.
And I think many Americans would agree with you. They just want more transparency on why we are on the are in war. With that said, what do you make of the possibility of more boots on the ground? Do you think that would be the right move moving forward?
Well, I think there are degrees of that. I mean, we've got boots on the ground now, we in Israel. That should be clear. They're not wearing army uniforms, but they're there, and they should be there. There are other things boots on the ground could accomplish, not a huge invasion or something like that, but, for example, at the appropriate time, securing Iran's key nuclear sites, Fordo, Natanz, Esfahan, perhaps others, to ensure that the enriched uranium there, the centrifuges, other key equipment, doesn't get lost or put in the hands of terrorists or other rogue actors. There may be other things that sort of a more limited targets that might be necessary for. So I think it's absolutely correct the administration's saying we don't take any options off the table.
The new Supreme Leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, who many are saying are much more conservative than his father, is warning that Iran will retaliate for the U.S. attacks. Ambassador, what is the risk currently facing American troops overseas? And I have to ask you about Americans here at home when it comes to threat level.
Well, I think terrorism is a preferred response by the Ayatollahs. It's asymmetric. They know they can't beat us militarily, but terrorism is a profoundly important part of their arsenal, and they've conducted many terrorist attacks, not just through their proxies in the Middle East like Hamas and the Houthis and Hezbollah in Lebanon, but through terrorist attacks in Europe and the United States. They've threatened Iranian Americans here, exiles. They've threatened current and former members of U.S. government.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.